Right, Hugh, we're just about to go into this really old building. It's a bit tricky. Mind your head, mind your feet. In we go. Well, here is a very dilapidated building. We're not even quite sure what it was originally. It might have been a house. It might have been just a farm building. Can you hear that drilling?
I can.
That's Dr. Dan Miles from the Oxford Dendrochronology Laboratory, and he is drilling into the massive oak timbers to see if we can find out when they were cut down.
The project's been going on for quite a while now, I think, hasn't it, Margaret?
Yes, almost 3 years. We have been visiting perhaps a couple of hundred houses in North Wales, and we've found about 80 or 90 that we think we might be able to get the date of them from the original timbers. In Wales, nothing has yet been found before 1402. Do you see this piece of wood that's curved down into the wall?
Right.
Usually these big timbers that curve into the wall, they're called crooks, are made by splitting a tree trunk with its branch. But here you've got the whole tree, just tidied up a bit with some edging taken off.
Is that unusual?
Very unusual. I think it's the first one so far found in Wales. So we're quite excited today. It could be very early.
Dendrochronology is just a posh way of saying tree ring dating, I think. How does it work?
Well, you better ask the expert. Dr. Dan Miles is up there looking at the timbers in the roof. If you go up the ladder,
Right.
he can tell you.
Well, we match up the variations in the ring width from year to year and compare it with known reference chronologies from other trees that have been felled. And if we have bark edge on our timber, we can work out the time of year the tree was cut down.
Being autumn, winter sort of thing.
That's right.
And you've got a massive drill over there in the corner takes out this huge tube of wood.
Well, we take out a very tiny piece of wood, actually, and we prepare the surface so it's very clean, put it under a microscope, measure it to a hundredth of a millimetre, and then we compare the variation in ring widths with other samples from the building and then from other buildings and chronologies from the area.
There's no risk that through taking out these chunks of wood the beams are going to be weakened and buildings collapse?
No, the samples usually get taken through the neutral access, and they overbuilt these old buildings so much that you could lose half the width of the timber and it still stand up.
Do you always get a date?
No, we need to have a certain number of criteria, need to have the rings thin enough, and ideally more than 100 to get a reasonable chance of dating, but it doesn't always work. But generally it does if we're careful enough in assessment.
And is there much of a knack to doing this?
Well, you've got to find a piece of bark edge on the timber, and you've got to work out where the centre of the timber is and aim towards the centre. But of course the centre of the timber is not often where the centre of the tree is. So it takes a little bit of analysing the timber before you start drilling. Drill away.
We've had grants from about 25 organisations. The biggest grant has been from the Heritage Lottery. We've got reports on the old timbers, we've got reports on the structures of the building, and we've also got people who've been looking into the house histories. We've been led all the time by Richard Suggett from the Royal Commission on Ancient and Historic Monuments of Wales. He is their principal investigator, and we believe we're going to be able to produce a booklet with them on our results. Here's Richard.
Hello, Richard. Are you writing the book?
No, it's all collaborative.
Okay.
So it is a collaborative community-based project, so everyone has their contribution. It's significant for North Wales, but it's significant for Wales as a whole. Tree ring dating is the only way to establish an accurate chronology for buildings. Before, it's kind of intuitive, and now we have a whole series of precise dates for different types of buildings, and I think it's fair to say that it's transforming our understanding of building history and hence social history. Architectural historians thought North West Wales was a kind of backwater. We now know that it was an innovative place, and some of the most up-to-date architecturally exciting houses were being built here in the first half of the 16th century. I think the big surprise is the early date of the classic Snowdonian storied house with end chimneys. We had thought of them as really coming on stream in the second half of the 16th century, but tree ring dating now shows that they were taking shape in the early years of the 16th century, in the 1520s, 1530s, 1540s.